Hey everyone, welcome back to Boise Entrepreneur Week. My name is Jessica Cafferty. I'm the founder and president of RNG Group, and I'm joined on this stage with some friends of mine. First, I'd like to introduce you to Brittany Ohnsman, and secondly, Matt Somero. I'm gonna let them introduce themselves, tell you a little bit about why we're here, but in case you haven't already realized, this session is titled, What the Insert your favorite curse word here is happening in the hiring world. All right, Brittany, tell us what you do.
Great. So I've been in recruiting for 13 years in various different sectors, corporate, agency, school recruitment, and I've always been a candidate advocate. So last year, I actually opened my own career coaching business, and today is actually my anniversary. So thank you, Jessica, for having me.
Congrats. That's a big deal.
Yeah, so I'm helping mid to executive level professionals kind of navigate this challenging market.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Matt.
I've been in recruiting for 12 years, 5 at a local agency, and then the last 7 on my own. Been focusing on software engineers, mostly for early stage tech startups. Started in New York, branched to Seattle. At this point, since 2020, it's coast to coast.
Yeah.
But yeah, early stage tech hiring.
Cool, awesome. So guys, the burning question is, what in the heck is happening in the hiring world right now?
What isn't?
Brittany, obviously you bring a really interesting perspective from the candidate side. I think Matt and I both sit in this in between, but I'd love to just open the conversation. Let's talk about what are you guys seeing?
Yeah.
What does the experience look like from a candidate side? What's it look like from a company side? And Matt, I'd love to hear, especially from the early stage startup viewpoint, what that feels like and looks like for you too. But
Yeah.
I'll let Brittany go first.
Yeah. Well, the good news, companies are still hiring. Okay, it may not seem like that, but companies are still hiring. And what I'm seeing is that companies are shifting from kind of high volume or headcount to more strategic roles.
Yeah.
And so candidates are feeling this, right? They're feeling the shift, they're feeling overwhelmed, and slower hiring cycles, right? And they're looking for individuals who can solve business problems. And that's a shift that we really haven't seen before. It was maybe previously more focused on skill-based. Can you do this specific job? And now it's more about, can you see the big picture and can you solve our problems?
Yeah, that's great. Matt?
I feel like it's consistent, especially seed funded. Seed's kind of the new Series A, the amount of funding they're getting. They're hiring, they are picky from what I'm seeing. I think a lot of my career was find folks that are qualified and they have the right skill set, and pedigree didn't matter so much with startups. And I've seen quite a few teams that are gravitating toward maybe some specific things like this school you went to, have you worked at these top companies?
Oh, interesting.
So, and that's mostly in the AI space.
Yeah.
I think that won't last.
Yeah.
But it's been really easy for some folks and I think really challenging for others.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess, as it relates to that, I'm curious, are there certain industries, certain, specific role types that you guys are seeing hiring being more or less challenging in? And again, we're straddling this line between candidate and company, but I'm curious on both perspectives from you guys.
Sure. Well, from my perspective, there has been kind of an increase in AI trainers, prompt engineering, even from the ethical responsibility with AI. And I've seen a lot in sustainability, green energy, and even healthcare is where my candidates are finding the most success.
Interesting. Matt?
Yeah, outside of, I'm not working with a foundational LLM, so that's a very specific skill set, but I think for startups, it's very much a full stack, principal, staff level architect who will still be hands-on, who can help hire, who can do quite a bit by themselves.
Yeah.
And ideally, they've had some exposure to building with AI, like integrating LLMs.
Yeah.
But it's, a lot of that.
Let's say, you're a candidate that's out there, you're job seeking right now. What's top 2 or 1 sort of piece of advice you're giving to candidates that are looking for work right now?
Well, first off, I think, take it back to your core values. Oftentimes we focus just on our resume, LinkedIn. That's our first go-to place. But go back to your values. What do you want out of that next opportunity? And really narrow down that direction. So instead of blasting your resume, being very intentional about the companies you're targeting. And then when you write your resume, think about that future opportunity. What are the problems you're solving in that opportunity, right? Oftentimes candidates are so proud of their career story, as they should be, but maybe not all of it is relevant for that future opportunity. So really think about that, the problems you're solving, the skill sets, the competencies. And then I would just say, to job seekers, like, hang in there. Like, I know it's tough right now, but you've got it. You're going to land something incredible. Just take a deep breath and hang in there.
Yeah. I don't think this is new, but I feel like quantifiable impact. So if you can show what you did, the impact it had to the business, to the top line, to the bottom line, to growth, whatever it is, recruiters are constantly looking for that. So are founders. Yeah. And I agree with Brittany, just hang in there, because it's going to get better, it's going to get worse, but everything's going to revert to the mean, and it will be okay, as frustrating as it can be right now.
Yeah, I think one thing that we are talking a lot about, both within sort of like my professional sort of circle and also like personal larger sort of boards, is retooling and kind of like upskilling. Are you guys seeing much of that? Are you seeing that like landing with companies? Are you seeing it make a difference? Like specifically, of course, within sort of insert buzzword here, AI, automation, et cetera. But like, I'm curious, does retooling and upskilling work?
Yeah, I mean, it does. Like I said, you have to think about business differently. Yeah. And so you can't go into a role just thinking, I'm solving this role's problems. It's understanding the business. And so it's having a curiosity, a willingness to learn. And any business that can harness that is incredible. But I think every professional needs to learn AI to some kind of capacity. And it's not about coding, it's about prompt engineering, right? It's how AI is leveraged in different technologies, right? And how does AI use data, right? So just having that fundamental understanding will take you really far. And any company that can, offer resources for their talent is incredible. And there's so many free programs out there right now and courses you can take online to kind of upskill yourself and be in charge of your own pathway.
Yeah.
I think you need to highlight your skills and your strengths for sure, and that can be a specific skill set. But you also have to communicate a generalist mindset to say, look, I'm great with full stack JavaScript, but I'm happy to get up to speed in Python. And I've done that before in my last role. I learned Golang or something new, and I was proficient in 6 months or whatever the case is.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm also curious sort of like on this topic, and then I promise we'll sort of like move on. But there's this kind of debate. I don't know if you guys are hearing about it a little bit, but there's a debate within like, do you lean into AI so much as a candidate or as an employee that you lose sort of a skill set, whether it be like writing emails or whether it be like learning how to like do like syntax within like development. I think some of these things are like very easy things for us to lean on AI for, but do we in the process lose some of our critical thinking skills as employees or as potential employees? Curious, you guys have thoughts on that?
I feel like it's knowing which questions to ask is so much of AI, so it can take care of a lot of the mundane. And I think the idea of being a co-pilot is probably most appropriate. So the pilot's not out of the cockpit.
By Microsoft.
No, do we have a different term?
Okay.
A co-driver. But yeah, just offloading the mundane and helping it do research and automated tasks, but the core strategy and thinking and inputs have to come so you get good outputs.
Yeah, and I think it's more around, instead of saying, do this for me, how do I do that, right? So when I think about resumes, right, we hear this a lot, that candidates are using AI to write their resumes. And Matt and I were chatting about this, as you can your output is only as good as your input. Right? Yeah. And so if you are not a domain expert in resume writing, it is not going to put out a great resume. And so instead of saying, write me a resume, it should be, how do I formulate a proper bullet point, right? So asking more inquisitive questions versus just having it do that.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we're running low on time. I do want to make sure we sort of address from like a hiring person's perspective and this company standpoint, sort of what the market looks like and feels like. And I guess I'll start by saying, from my perspective, it's been really interesting. There's definitely a contraction happening in the labor market. There's definitely, people are like, they're hiring slow and they're firing slow. So I do think that there's still sort of like, my experience has been there's still a demand out there for talent. There's still a demand. It's not to sort of like you were saying before, it's not the volume that you were seeing before, but it's still competitive. And you know, if your employer sitting out there going like, yeah, but I'm still having a hard time finding the people I need, I guess what's your guys' perspective on that? Any certain roles that you're seeing that like experience in, and maybe, you know, advice you'd give to like hiring managers?
Yeah, it's hard right now, and I think folks are very cautiously optimistic if you're not in pure AI, foundational AI, hesitant to hire.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing more teams that are willing to engage with contingent recruiters, which is lovely. I think is great, but I
Good
think
for our business.
at some point teams do need a point person, internal, thinking about strategy. They can then in turn bring on contingent recruiters or a retained search as needed. But I think if founders are trying to tackle this on their own, thinking, hey, I'm hearing all my friends are getting thousands of applicants, they're no good.
Yeah.
They just aren't.
Yeah, that's
Folks are using AI to write resumes that get them through ATSs or screens, initial screens, but sometimes can't speak to that experience.
Yeah.
So it's a lot, and founders are probably better off focused on selling and growing the business, and I think find a strategic partner, whether it's a contract recruiter for 3 months, 6 months, a full-time hire, or some sort of agency partner.
Yeah, I'm seeing definitely an increase in contract and fractional work, you know, and it's a lower risk for them, right? So they can move a lot quicker, and it's great for both parties, right? Because then it fills in that gap. It allows the candidate to upskill themselves or try a different area or broaden their knowledge in the business world. And from an employer standpoint, right, it's a win for them too.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely seeing that. So don't be afraid to go that route.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that's
there are
great.
great internal recruiters who are available. And there's many exiting, just going to something new. So you can find someone who'd probably take a 6-month contract, it's not long-term, and help you make some great hires.
Yeah, I'd agree. I also think that, you know, to your point right now, I think as a founder, more so than any other time, it is like really like focus on what you're good at, sort of stay in your lane. I think that was a really salient point. And, you know, find the partners that you can lean on. It is interesting. I know there's much more that we could kind of discuss in this context, but we are running out of time. So any sort of like parting words from you guys on, you know, what the, again, insert curse word here, is happening in the hire world, parting words for our audience.
Yeah, I know it's overwhelming right now, and there's a lot of noise. And so, like I said, I think just look at what you can bring to a company as a job seeker, what they're looking for, and focus on that value. And you're going to get through it.
I think with hiring from both sides, AI is vastly overpromising and under-delivering, and it's creating a ton of noise, and it's mostly static. So I think from both sides, be human and show that humanity, be personable. Better to reach out to 10 folks a day with a custom message that's relevant versus 100 or 1,000 with some AI slop, because it's mostly garbage. I get it every day.
There's a lot of catfishing going on in our world right now. A lot of catfishing. So anyway, thanks you guys so much for joining me. Brittany, Matt, pleasure was mine. Thank you guys for tuning in. Coming up next is your next round of BEW Live, and we'll see you again next year.